BIC episode number 70. And if the pre-show is any indication, this could be an incredible disaster of epic proportions, because there's a couple of directions we can go on this. And I want to see if I want to test fate a little bit. We're going to have to find out. It's like only the content gods and the discerning eyes of Brett Favre can protect us all. I'm not even going to say exactly what we're going to get into, but we're going to get into that on this episode of the BIC podcast. See, in order to adjust for this, Eric, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to adjust the format. So first of all, I don't even say what we're going to talk about because I have an idea of the first couple of things. And after that, we'll see what happens. And in that effect, what I'm going to do right now, Eric, is I'm going to thank AMG Collectibles and the AMG Collectibles YouTube channel. I'm going to do it right now. And I'm going to say thank you for supporting this podcast and the live stream and the YouTube channel. And also our condolences. And also I apologize. I'm sorry. And also I accept no responsibility and all the responsibility for everything that's about to occur.
To AMG, I just want to say it was nice working with you.
With the point, Eric, I'm covering all the angles. I'm taking no responsibility.
Nice working with you.
Responsibility. I am apologizing for nothing, and I am also apologizing for everything. Yeah. In advance, I'm doing all of these things. But what I'm doing right now,
Sherry, I just want to say I've never met you. I've only spoken with you in chat, but just know that my goal is to one day have an article written about me that says I am the nicest guy in Culpeper. That's all. I'm just going to leave it right there.
The nicest guy in Virginia.
And this is all going to come full circle. Like I said, first, I have an idea where we're going to go. And then we're just going to listen, Eric, I am not a religious man. But in the last segment, which I'm going to call Jesus Take the Wheel, we're going to find out. We're all going to find out. Eric, we're going to learn today. We're going to learn today. But before we get to that,
more mature too, and we're already
Eric. That's the best part.
Yeah,
that's the best part.
Yeah,
if we were on Friday, like we'd have 4 hours of this. So in relative terms, mathematically, it's more mature simply by less quantity of time. But we'll go with it. We'll get there. But before we do, like I said, I want to thank AMG Collectibles and the AMG Collectibles YouTube channel, amgcollectibles.ca. And there will be an upcoming episode here. I've already seen some of the stuff that's going to be new in the shop. There's actually a nice variety of stuff. And I think if we're going to share it as well, we'll see if he wants to share it. But Blair picked up some nice PC pieces that may be interesting for those of the vintage baseball persuasion. So that'd be kind of a little fun thing, a little bonus. And we're getting close to the Spring Expo here, so we're going to start winding into that a little bit. So we're going to talk about that in the upcoming episode. So if you're seeing this, it drops on Tuesday, and then later on in the Tuesday, you're going to see that episode. So you can check it out. Links in the description to all the above. Again, we thank you, and we apologize in advance. AMGcollectibles.ca, AMG Collectibles YouTube channel. All right. So first, I'm going to start off with some very straightforward stuff, and then we'll get into the other stuff. I did show off that I had picked up that gold PMG. So I actually have an epilogue to that whole situation. Picked up the gold PMG, got it through ePack, opened up some packs electronically for it, was able to pull the PMG, had it transferred over to COMC, which is one of the things you can do with it. It's kind of a nice feature to have. And then I had a kind of a plan of what I wanted to do with it, which is I wanted to make sure that I had it set up, put a certain price on it. I ended up putting $801 on it just because I could. But I allowed a little bit of offers on it, and my goal was to basically leave it on COMC for about a week, give or take, see what offers I could field, because you can set percentages and stuff. You can do that. And then if it doesn't go anywhere, I'll just put it up for auction, and we'll see, see what the market does with it. I thought that was a reasonable price, but at the same time, it's hard to say just because of where the brand is, the character is, and there's too many variables for me to be able to guess. It was an educated guess that I kind of threw out there. There are people who have taken lesser characters and put like $5,000 on it, and they're never going to get it. So my goal is actually sell it. So I'm trying to extrapolate a number. Well, I ended up getting an offer earlier today. First offer was $650, which I was like, okay. No, I was actually selling like $674, and I'm like, okay, that's not bad. So what I did is I countered at $7, and they basically took it. Since we were only like $26 apart, they took it $700. After the fees, I end up collecting $665 because it's 5% on COMC. So now I have all this COMC credit. And what I did is I actually parlayed that into picking up a one-of-one autograph printing plate for the dentist PC and cash remaining in the account for credit so I can pick up other items. So I kind of made it into a little mini trade where I was able to trade a card that I didn't need for a card that I wanted for the PC, plus some more cash to pick up some more items for myself later. So a nice, worthwhile trade. It worked out quite nicely for me for an electronic pack.
I was trying to be a good friend, and I sent you a COMC link to help assist you spend your credits
You did. But the good news is, Brandon, since Jason Robertson is barely a point a game player, I have more than enough to be able to go to the dollar bin and get all the Jason Robertsons. So, you know, that they're there.
There's several pages you could have completed if you went in reverse dollar amount order.
Mm-hmm.
I did it one day, but it takes an awful long time to add them all to the card.
It is problematic.
Yeah, they need to fix that because it takes way too. I would buy a lot more on there, but the shipping and the time it takes to load all that shit to your card is kind of cumbersome. But anyway,
well, the best part about it is because I did get enough money for it that I was able to get that 1-of-1 printing plate that goes in the collection. I have enough for that, and I have enough to pay for the shipping if I want to ship it right away. Plus, still have a couple of dollars left over. I was like, yes, all right, nice. So it works out. It actually worked out quite nicely, and I can pick up a couple more items here and there. That's kind of the fun part of that. That's the only reason why I didn't try to cash it out. Otherwise, normally, you know, having a balance on COMC and everything, it depends on what you're trying to do. I do find my fair share, though, of nice cards for like the Medano collection, stuff like that. I'll pick up some stuff here and there, and it's nice to have. So I'm taking advantage of it, and then I'll use some of those proceeds to ship it to myself later on. But it'll be a nice addition there, and it's a 1-of-1. So, and then from the inaugural year, which is nice, and that's a nice piece that I've been eyeing for a while. It had been sitting on my watch list, but I was like, I'm not paying this. But then when I have credit that I got on a really cheap card that I basically got for nothing, then I'm a lot more interested in using it at that point. That kind of makes sense to me. It's like a trade with cash considerations tossed on top. So it works out nicely for me. Now, a couple of things here that I want to touch on beyond that. Second thing. So that was a little bit fun of a PC edition. Second thing, which is not a PC edition, is I want to take a couple of minutes here and talk about the $3.7 million OPC hockey case. We did talk about that on Friday, and we got a couple of the details, but Sports Collectors Daily compiled all the components of it and summarized it nicely, and I'm going to include a link to that in the description. But I want to read you guys a couple of things. So first, high level. We remember we had that Heritage had the OPC Gretzky case that they sold for $3.72 million with the juice and the whole thing. So that was actually purchased by a real estate agent in Vaughan, Ontario. So that's the person who ended up buying it. And then we found out basically this week that, well, last week I should say, that they basically had paid $3 million of the $3.7 million and were letting Heritage hang on to it because, quote, you know, he discovered he didn't have the passion for it. And as you well know, Brandon, when you spend $3.72 million, you do that for things you do not have passion for. Seems logical to me. Seems reasonable. It explains a lot. But go ahead.
Before you go further, I don't want to spoil any of the details of the thing. But please just humor me and say, you know, because the way this is starting, that his kid logged into his iPad and placed a bid. And he didn't actually mean to bid the 3.72.
That would be awesome. Wouldn't that be the best?
That would be the only way this would be better. But he is acknowledging that he did in fact place the bid. He's basically but there's a couple of other details though that amused me very much. Yes. So I want to read a couple of lines. I'm not going to read the whole article to you, but I want to select a few snippets that I think we can comment on here. Let me read a couple and then we'll talk about it. So he's a real estate agent based in Vaughan, Ontario. Says he paid them $3 million of the 3.72. So he's paid most of it. The 720,000 is the remaining, but he's paid $3 million of it. So the majority of it. He asked the auction house to hold on to it for now while he tries to find someone who is more passionate about collecting, more passionate in quotation marks. Interesting. And so I'll tell you why. So he said he told CBC Saskatchewan that although he owns a Wayne Gretzky rookie card, he's not an avid collector, which is why you spent $3.72 million.
Oh my God.
But the next one, Eric, this next line, though, I hadn't heard about this. This next line I hadn't heard.
All right.
He inherited money from an uncle who passed away and decided to bid on the case after hearing about its existence in the media. However, after the auction ended, he heard from the Heritage representative that the underbidder was disappointing about not winning what was the only known unopened 7980 OPC case. And this is a quote. That caused me to have empathy for him, indicating that's when he started a journey to find a better home for the cards. Now, I am going to point out, I'm going to give Hockey Cards Gong Show credit for this because they said it first, so I'll give them credit for this.
Okay.
If that's the case, couldn't you just offer it to the underbidder?
Yeah.
That would be an option. I'm just throwing it out there since they were the underbidder. That would be a reasonably logical option. But there's a couple more quotes that make it better for me. So I'm giving you a couple. I want you to absorb these, but I've got a few more for you. And he goes on to say, he says he's tried reaching out to some wealthy sports figures, including Edmonton Oilers owner Daryl Katz, rapper Drake, and even Gretzky himself to gauge their interest.
Yeah, because Gretzky gives a care at all. He is Wayne Gretzky. What does he care about getting Wayne Gretzky cards? He looks in the mirror and he's like, hey, look, I got a picture of Wayne Gretzky right there.
Mm-hmm. So he told them that he has hired an attorney to seek a potential buyer while Heritage waits for the final resolution. He basically is saying that he feels their safest place.
Wait. So he's spending more money to pay an attorney to find a buyer.
Yes.
Rich people are awesome.
But hold on, but the underbidder was disappointed, and I don't know what the difference in the bid was, but if homeboy real estate agent really doesn't want it, instead of spending money on the attorney, why doesn't he just get the second place guy to pony up what he was willing to pay for it and cover the excess so Heritage doesn't take any losses, instead of paying the attorney to find a, like, this makes absolutely zero sense.
And it gets better. So you're making the point that I said, why couldn't you just offer it to the other bidder? At worst, if they just paid what they were agreeing to pay. Yeah, but even at worst, maybe you take a couple $100,000 haircut. That might be the worst case scenario for you, because the gap, the increments at that stage, obviously they're high increments, but even if it's $100,000, $200,000 on a $3.72 million case, that's not like, if you've got $3 million already, $200,000, yeah, it would suck to lose $200,000, but you're still getting most of your money back. So this is not like the most devastating thing
to get paid. Would even be able to work a deal where they shave the buyer premium a
couple percentage points off of it just to make the deal work. Yeah, you can work stuff like that, especially when it's expensive stuff. You can work deals out. That happens in real estate all the time. You shave a couple points to make the deal happen. That's really what you do, is basically what we're talking, especially when you talk about millions of dollars worth. A couple percentage points could make a deal more enticing. But the next couple of lines, though, Eric, take the cake. This is the best part. So all this is weird. All of it that I've said so far is very strange.
Yeah.
But he says he also says he's not trying to flip the case to a new buyer for a profit. Well, thank goodness for that, because no one else will pay more. No. You already paid the maximum. No one else will pay more.
Moron. We've said that from day one. Our stance on the Because I'm Carlos podcast and Friday Night Show has been, you're an idiot. It has been, when we were watching, when it didn't even finish yet, and we were watching the numbers go up, we were saying whoever's bidding on this is an idiot. And now, all these weeks later, we have been proven correct. The man is an idiot.
It still gets better. It still gets better.
How can it get better, Carlos? Oh, please let us know.
I'm going to tell you. I got to give you the last two quotes here, the last two pieces that are in part of this. So like I said, he doesn't want to flip the case to a new buyer for profit, and thank goodness for that. I don't want any. This is a quote. I don't want anything additional for myself than what the winning bid was for these hockey cards. Again, no one else has bid that high. You're on your own. You're by yourself. You're on the island. Even the underbidder didn't offer that much. That's why they didn't win. That's the reason they're the underbidder, and not the overbidder. Not the. Anyway, but the best part. This is the next line, and Eric, I am not making this up. It says here in the quote, again, Sports Collectors Daily. I give them credit for it. Link in the description of the article. Mind-boggling. He says if he can't find a buyer, he's considered giving the case away to a girl he met in grade school, a hockey fan who he believes was his true soulmate.
Just end the show. I don't want to do this.
Now do you all see what I was talking about pre-show?
Before Brandon, before we continue, Eric, I think the most appropriate response I could possibly give is simply this. I told you all, he shows up when the time is right.
Can we get the story to go further? If he gives it to the schoolgirl soulmate, can we have the happy ending of she says, "You're stupid as hell," and throws it into Niagara Falls? And then we would have a Hudson type 52 tops situation here, except it went into Niagara Falls. Can we get that?
Now, are you concerned at all? And this will come a full circle later. Are you concerned, though, that throwing the Niagara Falls with the well-known magical powers and the restorative healing powers of Niagara Falls, that as a result of doing that, it means that all the contents of the case will now all be PSA 10s,
and all might turn to Wayne Gretzky's?
That's what I'm saying. It will be like a case full of Gretzky's, nothing but Gretzky's.
Ooh. But there are people that jump into Niagara Falls. Maybe we could get some like footage of that.
Brandon, I am loving this from the content perspective. I'm loving this from the content gods perspective, and I'm loving this from my general cackling and schadenfreude perspective. Like, this sounds to me like a win-win-win situation.
This is a weird story.
It is.
Do we consider this guy a show bidder then?
We consider this guy a fucking moron. We consider what is this bullshit, Brandon? Brandon, the reason I read you those last two, I read you two sentences back to back. I'm going to quickly, everyone, let's pause for a moment. I'm going to repeat what I said a moment ago. I'm reading these two things back to back. These are two consecutive sentences in the same article. Two consecutive. There's no space in between. There are no words between these two sentences. The first one was, I don't want anything additional for myself than what was the bidding bid for these hockey cards. First is delusional, wanting to get back 3.72 million. Second line, nothing else in between. Next line, he says if he can't find a buyer, which he will not at that stupid price, he's considered giving the case away. So on the one hand, we want to get our money back.
To
on the other hand, we're giving the case away.
A passionate collector. But he's not a collector.
But he's not a passionate
collector. That relationship would work out too well.
I cannot see what could possibly go wrong. And that is why the $1 Million Man graced us with his presence. Eric, I think this is the first time the $1 Million Man has graced us on the podcast. And deservedly so.
And well deserving.
Yeah. The $1 Million Man does not show up outside of the live streams unless it's warranted. Today it was warranted.
Most definitely.
What the hell do y'all got going on up in Canada? Because, you would almost think that this was made up, that this was like a joke.
I still think it's a joke. I'm laughing. Does that count? I'm cackling. $1 Million Man was cackling. I was cackling. There was a lot of cackling going on.
And it wasn't even he wasn't even spending his money. He was spending an inheritance from his uncle that passed away.
That was so Eric, that was the other piece that I hadn't caught on the original reading of the first article. And I'm saying, wait, what? So you have this inheritance money and you spend it to buy a stupid case of hockey cards, and then you're not passionate for. By the way, it doesn't matter from a Heritage perspective. They're only sitting on $3 million. They could be collecting interest on this $3 million as we speak. Heritage is like, this is weird, bro. This is very weird.
I didn't even know they would take partial payments.
Oh, they do. No, so Heritage in the article, like I said, I didn't want to read the whole article, but Heritage has said that it is not unusual for a higher ticket item for them to make payment arrangements, to say we'll take a piece and do it. So they will hang on to it under circumstances, as long as they're not concerned that you're going to flake on them and not pay. They will work out an arrangement with you if you would like to finance certain things, or maybe it's a situation where you want to submit something, basically have them sell it and collect the proceeds and whatever. So they can make a deal with you, especially if you dealt with them before, traditionally, as long as they're confident you're good for the money. If they're concerned you're not good for the money, then obviously the deal's off the table. Go ahead, Eric.
One question that I really want.
Only one?
Yeah, because it's the root of all this. That how does someone who does not have any interest in the collection of hockey cards even find out that there is an unopened case of 7980 OPC with potentially 25 Gretzky rookies in it that's going to be sold for millions of dollars? How does someone who I have no interest in that? How? Yes,
he does own one Gretzky rookie, though.
Collect.com. That's the new answer, because that's the real media outlet.
Okay.
So it would have
Space-time
been
continuum might need to be worked a little bit. They weren't around when the auction initially launched, so it might be a bit of an issue.
The future part of it, that's the answer now.
So Brandon, if I wanted to go to collect.com,
now it would be collect.com, not sponsored.
Although I will take your money, by the way, Darren Bell. You got a check to launch that shit. If you want to send a little bit of that my way, I will totally take it.
I can give the promos. So.
Yeah, done. Done. No problem. No worries, man. No worries. So no seriously, this is some of the craziest dumb shit I've ever seen, Eric. When I read the bit about and I'm like, was the guy drunk while they were interviewing him? Like, what's going on? Was he literally like smoking crack while they were having the interview? Like, what is happening here? What is occurring at the time?
Maybe he's thinking if it goes to court, he can give dumb enough answers in these interviews that he could plead some sort of mental insanity.
Yes.
And they would feel some sort of remorse for him, and then he wouldn't have to pay.
Yeah, I think there's some type of mental insanity. Yes. We've said that all along. We said this whole thing is stupid. None of it makes sense from day one. And now we're on, months later, and we're going, everything that we said is absolutely correct.
Can I ask a question? Okay, so obviously
I want my question answered somehow, some way. How did this guy even get involved in this since he has no interest in it?
I just assumed he was watching auction coverage from reputable auction coverage people. Floating
he was bored on a Friday night when it was mentioned on the live.
Yes.
Hashtag influence. Hashtag influence.
Yeah, it was discussed. It was discussed on the show.
As he should, honestly. But in fairness, Eric, if he had watched the show, he would have known it was a terrible idea to win.
We told him.
He's like, you didn't listen to the whole thing. You should have listened to the whole thing. We explained the whole thing.
No, he said, don't play it.
So I can ask a question that I think we might be able to at least come up with an answer to, or at least speculate on an answer to. Okay, so here's a question for you. Let's say for whatever reason, this ends up going back up or whatever. They work out some arrangement, maybe some fee basically to let him get out of it, because I feel like that's the scenario that's going to play out. I feel like it's a situation where Heritage is going to be like, fine, you want out of it? We're gonna keep 350. We're gonna keep whatever 10% fee, restocking fee or something. They're like, yeah, you're not getting that back because you wasted our time. But here's my question: given that basically the whole original thing was the record price and the whole thing, if you have to run it back from a Heritage perspective, you're going to extract some money out of it for your trouble, because it's a pain in the ass to have to do it again. And it actually, I think, hurts the market, because in reality, what you just said is the highest bidder really didn't want it that badly at that price. So then if you're the underbidder of the other guys, you kind of have to recalibrate your math in your head. You got to rework it and go like, well, how much should we be paying for this really now? Yeah, it's worth something, obviously, but how much really?
Yeah, because you have to look at the bid history as the underbidder, and was the winner and the underbidder
were they by themselves? Did they separate themselves from everybody else? Yeah. What's the question is what's the third bidder? The question is, what was the third bidder going at? When did they stop?
It could be half of that price.
Rich people are gonna be, do stupid shit. With somebody who can never even, be involved in that. I just, with the math that we've done and the discussions that we've had, this thing is not worth more than $500,000. Okay. Again, there's nothing in there that's worth anything except the Gretzky's. 25 of those at PSA 7's about 215,000, right? Plus, you add on the uniqueness of it being the only, full case and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, but the 500,000 though you came up with is based on the individual boxes selling as they do normally. The novelty of it being a case, you can get to $1 million with the right buyers. I think you can get there, because it's not about the value of the individual parts. It's worth more as the unit than the sum of its parts. Because otherwise,
we
go ahead.
That Pokemon case that turned into being G.I. Joe cards, the value there was because it was the only allegedly, obviously, known sealed case.
Yeah. It's about it being the one or two or whatever it is of that thing. That people at that point, Eric, pay the premium for the fact that it's that thing. Otherwise, we talk about it with Bobby all the time, because Bobby obviously is an expert in that field, and he talks about it. Display boxes. To me, it's a piece of cardboard. It's a cool looking display piece, but just look at what the prices are on some of the display boxes. If we take it like at face value, it's literally a piece of cardboard. It's a box with nothing in it. If we're just talking about the display box, So why would somebody pay that much for it? Well, because they obviously see value in having an intact display box. That's what they're paying for. But if we just take it and try to break it up into its concept of what it is, that it's utterly ridiculous. In this case, with the Gretzky case, we know what an individual box will sell for. We've seen that. But in reality, what you're doing is you're paying for an ugly, regular, plain old cardboard box. Like if you just look at the outside of the cardboard box, like it's an ugly box. It basically looks like something you grabbed in order to take your shit from U-Haul. That's really what it is, other than it has the obvious logos and the stamping on it to correspond with it. But looking from the outside in, it doesn't look like anything special at all. But it's the fact that it's a Gretzky year, OPC Case. It's the fact that somebody else doesn't have that cardboard box with the boxes inside, and that's the value.
Yes.
So I can see it from that perspective.
The uniqueness.
Yeah, that's all. That's the only selling point. That's otherwise
it just went from 215,000. And I gave you the uniqueness price. I added the uniqueness, and I came up with 500,000. Now, again, I could be completely wrong. I can't come up with 500,000. I have to sell my house to come up with that, plus everything I own. So, yeah, rich people are gonna do rich people shit.
Well, the problem is though, if you take the 200, it was what 215,000 for an individual box.
No, it was 215,000 for the 25 Gretzky's graded PSA 7.
Well, yeah, but we're talking about like if we take
anything,
that doesn't matter though. You're not going to. The idea here, if you're trying to have value, is you're not cracking open the box,
right?
So it doesn't matter whether there's 25 or 30 or 35. They're in the box. They stay in the box,
right? So, but you know that there's 25 in there. You know what the average price of it was going to be. So you come up with that. That's the worth. Now you put on the uniqueness. And that's where I came up with the number. No, I could be totally wrong. I'm not going to argue the point because I have no problem saying I'm completely wrong. It's just an opinion that, rich people are going to just keep throwing money at it. But the thing isn't worth more than $500,000. That's just my opinion.
Well, just make sure you cap your next bid on the next round.
I am.
Let me ask this, Brandon. Does this issue create a bit of a problem if and when they try to go for the resale? I'm assuming it goes for a resale. I'm assuming they have to try to redo it.
Yes. I mean, and I'm not even looking at it. I don't know because that's not my sandbox. I don't go on that playground. So I don't know what all their rules and liabilities and all that is. But you have to remember that was being sold through Heritage.
Mm-hmm.
What about the people that actually own the case that were selling it? Is Heritage responsible for the sale? I mean, that's kind of not only just it sucks for that person, but that's putting Heritage's name, like, shit could get spread about them. Hey, don't send your stuff there because people bid on it and back out, and then you don't get your money. I mean, there's a lot of things that could go into that. So I think personally, if it goes back up, I don't see it coming anywhere close to that price.
Exactly.
And
now, I think to your point though, and I'm not going to venture into legal territory. There's no reason.
Yeah, I don't know what their rules are, like their liabilities are. But
I think though,
sure
key to this situation, I think what makes this situation a little more unique. So Eric, what I'll throw at you and Brandon is this: what makes the situation more unique is that out of 3.72, Heritage literally is sitting on 3 million of that money. Mm-hmm. So the person at the bare minimum has the vast majority of the money. So it's not a situation where they say, "Oh yeah, I owe you. I'll get back to you." They're literally holding in escrow effectively $3 million. So your Heritage, you have confirmed that the bare minimum, the guy had the ability to generate the majority of the funds required. The question is that last 720. That's really the only sticking point right now.
I think if I was Heritage, I would negotiate it in this path. If the guy doesn't want the case, so be it. So be it. Fine. You don't want it. Cool. You don't want it. You're not trying to flip it. You're not trying to make money on it. You need to pay your bill off, and we will then resell it for you.
Yeah, that's the reason I'm posing the question.
Yeah, then he is the one liable for taking the hit. Heritage is covering their ass. They're holding true to the original sale price to the original owner and seller of the product. They're being taken care of in the proper manner. This guy's the one that flaked and decided he, for some reason, was pissing away $3+ million on something he had no interest in and shouldn't have been on the site bidding on, apparently. He needs to be held responsible. And then if he doesn't want it, fine. Put it back up for auction.
I'd agree. I'd agree.
See where the cards lie, so to speak.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's the best solution.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. I think what it comes down to is this, though. I think this is, look, from the one side, and we can exist in two worlds at the same time on this. On the one hand, it is such a bizarre story, and those other additional components of it make it even more bizarre. It's one of those ones like rich people be crazy, just flat out. Because regardless, I don't care where he got the money. That doesn't really matter to me. The point is he had it, and again, that's why I say the key to this situation is that the vast majority of the money is in Heritage's hands. So they can confirm that the majority of the money is at least in their possession. So they're holding it right now and in the midst of trying to figure out the situation. So it's not like they're being held in the lurch for the majority of the money. The majority of the money is literally in their account. Hopefully accruing interest. If I'm Heritage, hopefully put it in an interest-bearing account for the love of all that is holy. Please. At least get something for your trouble. But the point is, why is this a thing? Why is this trouble even in the first place? Why can't we just pay our bill here? Figure out the situation. Look, I understand we reached out to Drake. The problem is you shouldn't have reached out to Drake. You should have reached out to Kenny. Kenny could have reached out to Drake, made this thing happen. It would have been amazing. They could have tried to open the 7980 OPCs and tried to find the LeBron logo man. It would have been super exciting. It would have been awesome. Unfortunately, card porn is not available, but we got the other players. We got 2/3 of the triumvirate. Think about it, man. Just saying.
And they could have done it on eBay Live because
sensational.
It's owned, they own Golden now. So
sensational.
It definitely doesn't make any sense. And again, I think the real, I don't want to use the term victim, but like Heritage, their name's out there, but the original sellers, like that's the people that really need to be looked at as probably saying, what the hell? And I don't know what the juice added to it. So maybe the 3 million covered the original seller's portion.
Almost all of it, yeah, because it was 3.1 before the juice. The 620 was the juice.
So maybe that, maybe they're that 3 million's been okay. We got this for you guys. The rest, we got to figure out. I don't know. But I definitely think the best solution to this is I'd just be like, hey, you need to finish paying the damn bill and we'll put it back up for sale. You don't want it, fine. We'll help you out, get rid of it. We'll call Drake and say, hey, we're putting it back up for sale.
And we'll sell it for 1.2 million. And
I mean,
I feel like at that point, if you're Heritage, you've burned the ground. You don't want to be trying to auction it to turn around. Your best bet would be try to work out a private deal. That would honestly be your best bet, to try to work out a private deal. Again, there was an underbidder. So if I was them,
again, I think it comes back though to that whole thing that we just discussed. If it was the winner and the underbidder may not want to pay that. They may not be anywhere close because they feel like, well, he just ran me up and he didn't even want the damn thing. So I could have won it down here without him taking some Ambien and getting on Heritage's website one night with some alcohol and running some bids up, So we don't know that aspect of the bidding history because that could change the number drastically. And maybe that's why they don't even want to pay the second chance price or whatever it may be. It might just be so far out of balance that it just didn't make sense.
I just think it's important to note that whenever you think that the hobby has gotten as strange as it can, then there's moments like this. Praise the content gods, as always. It was already good. Like Eric, on Friday, it was already good. But then it gets better and better. And then $1 Million Man cackle. It's it's pretty fantastic. Not going to lie. Pretty damn good.
The whole thing has just been a joke since The second it came up for auction, it's just been a complete joke.
So yes, so that's
I think it was a cool
thought
find.
I think it is a very cool find, and it's taken on a very strange turn.
And I would let, hey, if the guy wants to give it to me, I'll take it. I think it's absolutely incredible.
Here's a big question, though.
Incredible.
In all seriousness, because this is always like when I hear these things of the only one in existence, and it wasn't known about, right? And then it's just found. Does that ever make you think, how do you know it's the only one in existence? Like, there could be 10 more out there, just not found yet, you know? It's one of those things. It's like putting that statement, known to exist. I get, you know, that's a fair statement there, but is it really the only one? Because that's always the question mark.
Bobby,
Eric has already stated previously in private conversation that he doesn't want people to know about the 100 cases he's sitting on right now. It would be inappropriate. The time will come, but now it's not that time.
That's my retirement.
Mm-hmm. And it's going to be fantastic. Imagine
so about 42
party.
Cents.
It's going to be sensational. Imagine the rip party when Eric gets together with Kenny and Drake, and they open 100 cases of 7980 OPG.
It's going to be big time.
How long of a fuse are you going to put on it, though?
Enough, just one long enough to get me out of the room before it goes off.
Can you get the fireworks going in this episode?
I was gonna say we have to find out what the gesture was. What the gesture was to get that going. We'll have to see. Well, we might have to figure that one out. Yeah, I don't know. See, it doesn't do it on command. It's like the $1 Million Man. It doesn't do it on command. Only when it wants to. Apparently, that's the deal. But anyway, so we'll move on from that topic. I do want to touch on one more quick thing, and then we'll go deeply into story territory. We'll get there. Okay, so one more thing I want to mention real quick, and I'll talk more about it in the next episode. I said the Spring Expo is coming up. I have checked out some of the Spring Expo, basically wrapper redemptions for Upper Deck. There's a bunch of them, as usual. Now, I will say, I was looking at the checklist. The checklist is kind of weak. I got to be completely honest with you. I was scanning through it, and I was like, I think they were focusing on the 22-23 rookie class. So I'm not seeing a lot of Connor Bedardum, which is, I'm like, ooh, that's a bit rough. Now, they do have a couple, but they're the case ones. So if you do the case, there's a Bedard. But if you do like the boxes, apparently it's not available. And the case looks like it's the NHL Parker's Priority Signings Exclusives, Bedard, and it looks like the print run is 5. So there's 5 Bedard cards, and that is the entirety of the wrapper redemptions available for Connor Bedard. You got 1 card, print run of 5, and everything else, no. Rough, my friends. A little bit rough. Now, what caught my eye and playing into my theme here, I did check out on the checklist. Eric, there are AEW people in the checklist. In the wrapper redemption, you can pull AEW people. And all they did was grab every Canadian they have. I literally scanned there and I'm sitting there like, oh, that's rough. It would have been kind of cool if they had like a Dennis card in there. Like that would have been fun for me. That would have been great. But it's like I was in Taya Valkyrie. Yeah, I think she's out Vancouver. Adam Copeland, formerly known as Edge, Toronto area. You got Christian Cage again, Ontario. Kyle O'Reilly, who I think is also Chris Jericho, and Evil Luna, who's out of Montreal. So there's 6 AEW people, and they're all Canadian, which is all fine and dandy, pandering to the Canadians. But I'm sitting there like, okay, the Edge one is fine, the Christian Cage one is fine, Chris Jericho, sure. I'm like, you probably shouldn't just gone with all Canadians. I get why you did it. But it's a little bit. Even the AEW checklist is rough, Eric. Is what I'm trying to get at. The general checklist is rough, and even the AEW pandering to Canadian checklist is rough.
I'm trying to remember who was 2022-23. That was Beniers.
I think it was Cole Caulfield, wasn't it?
Caulfield, Beniers, or was Caulfield the year before?
Yeah, because I'm just looking at it. So I'm speculating this 22-23, but I'm just looking at it because I see for sure we definitely do not have. Oh, but we got Nick Foligno. Nick Foligno. Eric.
My acquaintance.
Do you want us to get you a Nick Foligno?
No, I can contact him If gun to my head, I could call him.
Yeah, but he's not even going to have a Victory Stars Expo card exclusive.
Caulfield might have been 2021, wasn't he?
Maybe. I'm not sure. Like I said, I just know that there was only the one Bedard. That's all I know is that they only, and I'm saying that's kind of a disappointment. That's kind of a letdown, you know? Like, I feel like you should have leaned into that one a little bit harder, especially since we got Series 2 and all that things there. I'm just sitting there, I'm looking at the checklist, I'm like, okay, it's a bit rough. It's a bit tough over there.
My question is, who's going to stand?
And no Jason Robertsons. Game over.
Who's going to stand in line and get me a couple of autographs? That's my big question.
They got Wyatt Johnson. Does that help?
Man. Wyatt, yeah. He's had
Wyatt's
a good year.
Yeah, Wyatt's good. He's a good young player. It's a bit rough, man. This checklist is not filling me with it's not filling me with excitement here. Not great. Not great. Oh, good news is I won't be needing to worry about doing any pack redemptions. I'll probably grab the AEW cards just if I can find them on the cheap. But bit rough. I would have loved that they put a Dennis BC card in there. That would have been awesome. But no, nothing, nada. At least if we gone with we could have pretended Long Island, New York was an extension. They could have grabbed MJF. At least that would have made it interesting. Throw at least another name in there, but no dice, no good. But anyway, I just thought I would mention that. I will talk more about the Spring Expo in the next episode. That'll lead into it, and it'll be the week of the show, so that'll play into it. And I think that'll be the appropriate time to talk a little bit more about Spring Expo plans. I'm the one attending. Eric will be there, only in spirit.
Yeah,
and we will leave a little cup of mayonnaise at dinner in a place of honor in honor of Eric.
No need to do that at all. Thank you.
It'll be like one for me and one for our homies. We'll just put one right there for him.
Nope. Please do not do that.
How is the Canadian mayonnaise, Eric?
I assume it's as disgusting as the American mayonnaise.
I don't know. I've heard the McDonald's in Canada are much better than the U.S., so you never know, man. Maybe they got the good mayonnaise.
I don't eat McDonald's in this country, and I won't eat McDonald's in that country.
I've never had it in that country, obviously. I've just heard that it was good.
I've had both. I think it's I guess it depends on what you're eating, though. Like, it really depends on what you're eating. Whatever it is they call a burger, I don't consider that to be a burger. It's not this. That's a piece of cardboard with like sprayed flavor on it. Like, that's not a burger. Whatever that is. I literally get fries and McNuggets. That's all I get at McDonald's. The old pancakes though were good. The old pancakes, like the hot cake, those were good. That was legit back in the day. I can't speak for now, but that was legit back in the day. That was the real deal.
Yeah,
that was cool.
It was a vlog that my wife and daughter were watching. There was like so many female YouTubers that apparently are from Canada, because it seems like every time I turn around, they're watching some YouTuber female and they're from Canada. And they were watching one who was driving from Canada to move in with her boyfriend, who's a YouTuber and lives in Texas. So they were leaving Canada and they mentioned that they stopped in the US, and she said Canada's McDonald's are so much better than the States. So that's where I got that from.
I think it's.
I've had both. I would say. I guess it depends. Like I said, it depends. I will say the portions, like the drink sizes and some of this, like, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
It's all trash.
It's absurd. It'd be like, what's that? That's a medium. Okay. I'm exaggerating slightly, but nonetheless, it's ridiculous. It just made me laugh and go, so no wonder y'all are fat. I get it. But it's like, dang. All right.
They've actually cut them down. I still say all the time that from when I was
most
a kid,
McNuggets that are the size of a life-size chicken. I want a 6-piece. It's like 6 chicken.
No, the patties have gotten like the quarter pounder I swear that patty used to be a lot bigger. It's a quarter pounder is still a quarter pound.
I already denounced the McDonald's burger. The McDonald's burger is not the quarter pound, it's the quarter ouncer. Like, it's just
all trash.
It's nah, man. Like, they're giving you a picture of the burger at this point. You're not even getting the burger. You get to eat the picture. That's all you're getting.
Anything smaller than a crumble cookie is pathetic.
Wow. That's all right. That's a unit of measurement. I think that's an important one. Sounds good. All right.
Those things are.
Let's finish up with this one. We'll finish up with this one because I'm giving us time. Let's do it. Oh, this might be a few YouTube short clips here. All right. Kurt's card care. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Brandon may have a little bit of. That's why I gave all those precursors at the beginning. That's why I gave all those, like I'm warning y'all. I have warned y'all. It's like, so again, I'm going to reiterate. I thank AMG Collectibles and AMG Collectibles YouTube channel. We thank you for your support. And in advance, I am both proud of what is about to come and incredibly sorry. I'm covering all my bases, Eric. No matter what happens, I'm covered. I got this covered. The opinions expressed are mostly those of Brandon, and the cackling is totally me. But the point is, it's going to be fun. Okay, so let me set the scene first, and then we'll get into it here a little bit. Okay, obviously Kurt's card care. We've already talked about this in the past anyway, but he did go on the Floating Head show. I forget the name of it, Eric. What's the name of the thing? No Next Tonight, Heads Floating Over Yonder. Like, what's the name of the damn show here? Help me out. Eric's hesitating. Well, you could say the actual name if you like.
I'm not getting involved in this.
By the way, there will be a networking event at Spring Expo for people who are inclined.
I would like to make a precursor statement. I only made it half
for legal purposes. Go on.
I actually pulled the channel up to see where my red bar was at the bottom, and I made it halfway. Actually, looking at most of his videos, I've only made them halfway. But anyway, and those are the ones I've watched, which are not very many, but that's beside the point.
Yeah. By the way,
but I watched this one about halfway.
The key is not the specific. So there's a reason why I'm not worrying about the specific channel, the specific episode. It's not the point. I didn't watch 1 second of it, but so I'm not going to comment on things specifically said in that episode because I can't. It would be unfair. But what I'm going to say is that obviously anything related to Kurt's card care is very controversial and people are talking about it. So I want to kind of focus on the topic itself and the concerns and that element of it. And we were having a debate before we started recording. So I'll lay the groundwork for everybody and we'll go from there. And then I'll let Brandon take it away and entertain us all. But the point is that we had a conversation before we started. And obviously we have different opinions on kind of angle wise. I very much take a kind of a laissez-faire approach to the hobby. We've talked about this before. Obviously it's a meta piece. But the other element of it is also that a lot of these issues are longstanding and they predate Kurt's card care. The only difference for me is that the Kurt's card care era, if you want to call it that, is that it's led to a more movement to try to normalize elements of it that were always kind of there. It was in the dark alleyways previously, and it's been brought out in front and center. And Kurt's card care is basically the poster child of this movement to try to normalize it. And I think that has been particularly the controversy of it. I know that Clemente Collector, so I will find the video to that and I will link it to you because I think that'd be worthwhile for you to check out. He gave one take from a collector perspective. And really what the undercurrent concern for him was that because a lot of these things are predominantly undetectable and the grading companies have predominantly said, well, they haven't so much as said, but they basically confirm that they struggle. They're struggling to find because the stuff gets through. And because of that, it basically creates a scenario where you've got all these cards that have been, sprayed and, wrinkles flattened and all these things that Kurt's Card Care on their YouTube channel has basically shown people tutorials and things on how to do it and shown them that they've done it successfully. It's created kind of this culture of people kind of accepting it more. But then the grading companies also are kind of like, well, if there's no residue, if there's no this, there's no that, we're not going to say it's okay. But at the same time, if we can't detect it, we can't detect it. SGC Pete has basically said as much. And other ones are kind of alluding to the same thing. But it goes back to perception. Perception is reality. And that's the debate we were having before we started recording. Because if the general marketplace is concerned about it, but continues forward business as usual, then nothing really changes. Because as long as the prices don't really get impacted, as long as that, then the train rolls on, the wheels keep moving. If the confidence was ever lost across the board, then that's where things would happen. It would be more dramatic. It'd be burning Elmo memes everywhere in the streets. A little more $1 Million Man cackles for me. But other than that, that'd be good. So that's kind of laying the groundwork of it. Brandon, do you want to take it away from here and kind of give your opening thoughts on this?
Well, first and foremost, you mentioned Kurt's put his face out there. Okay. Mm-hmm. That's all good and fine. If you watch the channel, there was somebody that mentioned in a forum that he kind of approaches everything as fuck you, my product's popular, I don't care what your opinion is. And that's kind of the perception, the message he's putting across, because he comes right out and says, you know, I have people message me, I have people talk shit to me. He said all of this in Jeremy's video in the live, and he also goes on to explain, well, the Wembanyama, I didn't have anything to do with it, but you know, sure, getting a shout out and it increases my orders and everything else. But then there was some questions asked about future effects on the cards. And he comes right out and basically swerves the question and puts it into, well, I have a close relationship with all of my customers and none of them have ever said anything to me. Well, a couple questions I have there is, I mean, how long has this product been on the market? How much, like, what period of time are we talking? Because it may not have been used in a length of time to impact the cards. We don't know. But that's where I think some of this lack of amateur testing and everything has some questions out there. I think there's other people outside of myself that have these same questions. You mentioned that this is things that have happened all along. Well, yes, trimming has been a thing. We know people have tried different things. But the fact is, we're opening a door, we're opening a gate to say, you go left, it's wrong. You go right, it's okay. And, you know, just because it's not detected doesn't make it right. There are policies in place, all right? People are going to skirt these policies. And just because Kurt is putting his product and his name out there and the hobby wants to say, oh, well, this is making my card so much better. Oh, I can get a 10 now. Oh, I can fix a crease. I can soak a card. That does not mean it is right. And I think a lot of people are overlooking the fact that the values of some of these cards, specifically in vintage, have withheld their value over time, maybe have even increased in value over time, because the cards themselves aren't freaking rare. We know vintage isn't rare. We're just sitting here talking about a damn Gretzky case that's sealed. And you said how many's in there? 25 of them or whatever? The cards aren't rare. The grades of them, as they get higher, become rare. And if you can just take some little magic secret sauce and bump the grade up by a couple grades, then it starts making the values in those grades of your middles, or your, even not necessarily the 10s, but you start bumping everything up. You start increasing the pop report upwards. And then that takes away that rarity of those other grades even more. So guess what? You're negatively impacting the value of those cards because there's more of them than in the market. And if that isn't the purpose of it, well, why in the hell buy a 5 if I can buy a 3 and buy some secret sauce, spread it on there, lather it up, and send it back in? That's a hell of a lot cheaper than paying that 2 grade bump. And it starts making grading itself become irrelevant. The ultra modern cards, why in the hell would you ever buy a 10 if you can slather it up, use a little tool or whatever to turn it into a 10? Like, all of these things, what initially seem like good for the hobby or the collector, even, like, I don't know where in the hell that's a thing, but all of these things that appear to be good further along start to negatively impact, because although there might be 10 people that are okay with it, there's going to be people that aren't okay with it. And I said it in my video. The one thing that this hobby does not need is division. We already have enough of it with the rising costs of products, the shitty quality of the products, the grading itself. I will sit right here and say the volume that has increased, and you can say, well, it's just a matter of numbers. There's always issues. The grading itself has become shit. I just sent 20 cards back. 17 of them had fingerprints all over them and were slabbed and sent back to us. 4 of them had incorrect grades. And I don't mean I sent them back to get the grades raised. I sent them back because they were overgraded. There was a card that should have been a 6 or a 7 that got a freaking 9. And I'm not the professional here. I'm the guy sending the shit in. But I seen it, and there was no way I was sending that back out into the market, because guess what? Somebody's going to look at it, and then it's going to wind up on Twitter or Instagram or Sports Cards Nonsense or whatever. Hey, look at this. They don't know how to grade freaking cards. And what does that do? That impacts everybody, because the name, every time this shit keeps, look at how many times people bitch about PSA. We know it happens. We know mistakes happen. But every time it's the same thing. They suck. They suck. They suck. I just shared a post of $500,000 in fake slabs on the market, or found at a guy at a show. You know, we can't just keep saying, well, it's been happening. Let's just turn a blind freaking eye to it, or let's just make it okay. We're not solving shit by doing that. We're just opening the gate and saying, have at it, boys.
So to this point, because that was a really good rant, and I wanted to let you have plenty of runway on it. But let me ask a question, since you bring this up. By the way, I also appreciate your voices that basically are Eric. I was hearing that, like I was feeling it. I was enjoying it very much. I appreciated it. But let me ask a question. So I'm going to play devil's advocate here, but at the same time, I want to pose the question. I want to open it up so that we can discuss it. This is the classic tale, a tale as old as time, which is there is an issue here. We can identify the issue. We can discuss the issue. So the question is, at a certain point, awareness, all these things. But we always have to remember, and I always caveat this by reminding everybody, praise the content gods, but at the same time, the amount of people that are actually watching YouTube videos, following hobby accounts and all that, is a very small percentage of the greater whole. So it's one of those things where you can stand on a soapbox and yell and shake your fist at the sky. Eric does that basically every day. But you can shake your fist at the sky and say, like, this is wrong. We need to do whatever. The money is going to be the final word on this. The referendum is the money on everything. You don't like box prices? You need to stop buying the boxes that are overpriced. But if you do that and your buddies do that and everybody else still buys them, then there's no reason the price should go down. Basic supply and demand economics. Same thing with this other stuff. We know that this has been a long-standing issue, but the rank and file average collector doesn't know crap. Rule number 1 exists for a reason. It's one of those running. And then you have another group of people that come in, and you can educate them. You can even tell them. In theory, if you educated them, there would be no good reason for you to buy, to your point. Why would you buy a PSA 10 and pay a premium, knowing that there's a lot of ways that we can get to a PSA 10, legitimately and illegitimately? So why pay a premium? And yet some people still do. So it's one of those things where, like, at a certain point, it's like, okay, so you know that, I know that, you, myself, and Eric can have this conversation until we're blue in the face. Whoever's watching this could completely agree with that premise. And then what?
I think the point we're at right here, and I can't say it's going to happen tomorrow, that shit's going to change. Okay? Not going to say that. But I think we are in the period coming out of the pandemic. A lot of the YouTube content, I'm not saying all of it, but a lot of the YouTube content started during that period. A lot of the Kurt's Card Care type businesses have started since the pandemic. Okay. Mm-hmm. You have a lot of people that have came back in or new to the hobby. We can look at history and say it's been going on. We can look at history and say, well, this happened then and it still was okay now. But we cannot predict the damn future. And I think that is where things will be told. We're sitting here today saying that we just need to allow it, right? Can't detect it, just allow it. But what is that fixing? What is that fixing? Because if we're going to say it's okay to put polish on a card or soak a card or fix creases, I will say this. There are aspects to it I could be accepted of, but I think it opens the gate to then nitpick of what is and isn't okay. Should we be soaking a freaking card and taking a tool and massaging out a crease? Should we be doing that? Or should we take a cloth and maybe if there is some gunk on a Panini Prism card because they don't know how to manufacture shit or they got to print too many of them and the print line has got some dirt on it they got on the surface and we take a rag and everything and kind of wipe that off, is that okay? Because I can see wiping some gunk off of a damn card, but I don't see fixing and soaking cards as being okay. And that's where Kurt and his card care is dividing lines. There's aspects of it that I could see being okay. But there's other aspects that I think is horseshit. And you're opening that gate up to then having to pick and choose what is and isn't okay. And Kurt himself says, well, you shouldn't trim and you shouldn't add color or paper. Well, dude, your restoration is restoration. If you're saying it's okay to freaking clean something up or soak in freaking fix corners and creases, you're basically saying that restoration in general is okay. And then they want to, compare it to other collectibles like comic books and all this other shit. They're different collectibles. It's different. I don't give a damn which way you want to twist it or turn it and say, well, they accept it and why don't we? They're different collectibles. You want to do that shit? Go do comic books. I can tell you now, and I'm not even big into it, but go ask an action figure collector if they had a graded action figure that was complete with all of his accessories and you found out the damn accessories were 3D printed. Are you valuing that as much as one that has brand new or the original accessories? Like, there's shit in every single collectible category that is okay in one that may not be okay in another. And we got to stop comparing it to all of the other ones to try to make it okay.
Okay, now I'm going to ask a question. I'm going to ask a question. So that's why I say I wanted to give you some runway so we could go a little bit because you're bringing up some interesting points. But again, I'll play devil's advocate. And Eric, feel free to chime in here. But I wanted to let Brendan have some runway here to go with it. So let me ask the question. You said a moment ago, if we say, let's say we go the other way, we don't say, but what does that mean beyond this conversation we're having? Okay, it's unacceptable to you. It's unacceptable to Eric. It's unacceptable to me. That doesn't hold any water. That there is no hobby consensus. There's no panel. There's no, grand poobah that is, hey, we present our case and say, this should not be allowed. There is no committee. There's no council. So
there is, but they have to step up and put their foot down beyond the standards because, Andy Sports Card Investigator, he brought up a good point. There's a speed limit sign on the side of the road, but it's up to the driver of whether or not they obey the speed limit sign, right? There's standards within these grading companies of telling you what is right and wrong. But the problem is people want to step over that boundary to do whatever best suits them to turn their cards into the most money possible. So it's the same thing. You see the damn standards, you see the speed limit sign, right? And it's okay until you're pulled over or it's caught. So the backlash really needs to come to, and they can say, well, there's no way to catch it. If there's no way to catch it, then grading is irrelevant.
So that was going to be, I knew we were going to get there. So I knew we were going to get there. So I wanted to make sure we cover it. So let me use your analogy though. Let me use the speed limit analogy since you just gave it. The speed limit analogy is fine. And to your point, you're right. People can choose to follow the speed limit or not follow the speed limit. What you're talking about though is enforcement. A speed limit's only as good as its enforcement, because I can put a sign there that says whatever speed you want. But if there's no consequence for passing the line, or if the speed gun isn't working, it doesn't matter what you do. You can go slow, you can go fast. Let's say the speed limit is 55. I don't know what the miles per hour is on, your freeways or whatever, but whatever. It doesn't matter. 55 just for the sake of conversation. So you hit the gun and it comes up 55 no matter what. You go slow, it comes up 55. You go fast, it comes up 55. Your car is literally flying through the air. You've gone so fast, it's still coming up 55. What do you expect the cop to do? Because this is the thing they're using to figure out if you're passing the line or not. They can't eyeball your speed in this analogy. I'm just sticking with the analogy for a second. But if they can't figure out that you have passed the speed limit, even if they want to enforce it, how do you expect them to?
But we, as like you're right. We all can say and have morals. We can have standards of our own. And agree.
My morals are debatable, but for the sake of this conversation, I'm going to join you guys on this conversation for the sake of this conversation.
We can have standards within ourselves of what is right and what is wrong. But those standards are only meaningful to us.
Yes.
Everyone else doesn't give a shit.
Correct.
And that's where the more people that line up, and you see it out there. That's why this is such a topic, is because, and that's what I was alluding to earlier, the one thing this damn hobby does not need right now is division. It does not need people dividing and bitching at one another and saying what is right, what is wrong. We have these companies that were literally freaking created to take the debate out of the negotiation process. And we are now inputting yet another debate. Why in the hell is grading even going to be a thing or a necessity or relevant if it's just creating another question of, does this group of people think it's okay? And does this group of people not think it's okay? And they're going to be in the middle saying, well, what the hell do you want us to do? If you can't do your job to your standards that are written right on your own damn website, then you then start becoming irrelevant. The only thing they're really worried about right now, look at the numbers. We got to hit that gem rate number. We got to get that number in the positive percentage. That is what they're going for, because that is what's putting the money in the damn bank account. But when it all starts rolling back, and if things do start happening, if cards do start having issues, if people do start pushing back and stop grading cards because of this shit, then they will figure something out. But until then, it's going to be the division. Is it right or is it wrong?
So there's two parts
to
this.
That's what you're seeing right now.
Sure. Now let me separate two parts here. First part is, so let me start off with the grading piece and then we'll talk about the other part. So the grading piece, I don't have a problem with the premise that you're outlining. I think what it comes down to though, and this is kind of what I'm looking at as you're describing it here, I don't think the average rank and file person is even capable. So I'll go back to your speed limit analogy just for a second. I don't think when I'm looking at it, to stick with the analogy here, I think the average person that is going down that freeway can't even read their odometer correct. So they don't even know that they're passing the speed limit in some cases. There are people that are doing it intentionally and they know what they're doing. They're hitting the foot on the accelerator. The goal is to go as fast as you can. But there are some other folks that are incapable of even reading the odometer. What I mean by this analogy in the grading parlance, I got folks that's like, oh, this got a 6. What the hell is that? It's like, this card's perfect. And right on the screen, I can see there's a crease there. There's a thing there. You can't even see it. And it's plain as day. This isn't hidden. This isn't like, it's right there. It's in your face. And you still can't figure out what's going on. So your point about the grading being relevant, fair enough. but that's assuming enough people are able to be discerning or even interested enough in being discerning. And this has always been the key. Are there enough people, not just the vocal ones? I don't care about the vocal ones. I'm interested in the ones that aren't spending their time talking. Do they care? Or are they paying enough attention to even realize that that is the case? Because if they're not, okay, Brandon will never send in another card for grading ever again. Eric will cut back his grading 100% from his current, from 0 to 0. And what has that changed in the grand scheme?
What if these people that you're stating, what if it's the people that aren't even grading cards, but they're buying graded cards, and they're now hearing and seeing the things that are being done, and they don't agree with it? Because now, who gives a shit how much record-breaking numbers they're putting out if the buying pool starts decreasing because they don't agree with it? They don't know what the hell they're buying, and they become Eric and say, well, I don't need a slab. I can just go with a one-touch. What happens then?
I think so there's two things. I think you're assuming they will come to that realization. I don't assume that.
I'm saying what if. I'm not assuming anything.
And if that's the case, then if that's the case, then something will change. But my counter to you is then what will happen right after that, the next day, is that people go, oh, great. Now nobody's grading anything. Perfect. Okay. Alter the ungraded ones and sell it to them. Oh, yeah, this was a much nicer one. I was like, oh, look at how nice it is. It's like, here, it's another 20% higher than the other one. And it'll be the same shit, but it'll be ungraded now.
That right there, you hit the nail on the head why it pisses me off so bad. You have a guy that sits here and says that he comes from a family of auto body background and everything else. And I said this in the pre-show thing when we were talking about it. You take a car that's all original, matching numbers, no accidents, clean, perfect, pristine shape, and you put it on Mecum Auto Auction. And then you take one that's been to the Kurtz Auto Body Shop and gotten its dents knocked out, maybe had a couple parts replaced. Non-matching numbers.
Or Bondo. Don't forget Bondo.
Yeah, you got to slap that on there. Nice, beautiful paint job. Great car. Motor's freaking awesome. Beautiful exhaust. Got some chrome, everything. It's not going to sell for as much. And a man that comes from that background should freaking know that. So, why are we going to accept it in sports cards?
I think using your analogy, though, again, using your analogy just from a moment ago about the car analogy, what if all the people are staring at it and they can't tell that the dents got pushed in? For the scenario,
people are actually, they disclose it.
I understand, but all it would take is a few people to walk in and be like, I'm not going to disclose it. I did it, and if you can't tell, I'm not going to tell you.
And this is where the lines are drawn and the little gray areas are there. Yeah. Oh, well,
I think, though, the division. So remember I said the first part, I wanted to touch on the grading part first. So we did that, and we'll come back to it if we need to, but I just wanted to touch on it first. Let me touch on the second part about the division.
We can do the dance, though, of what if they did or what if they didn't. I mean,
my contention is they will regardless.
It's bullshit. It's literal deception. It's pure ass bullshit. Yep. And this is one of the only hobbies out there that I see this much stupid shit going on. Maybe comic books, because you had the people swapping them in the damn slabs or whatever else. But this hobby has so much deceptive bullshit in it. And it all goes back to the same damn thing. Money. And this is a hobby that we started as youth. We grew up to go back to our passion as children for something as stupid as little cardboard pictures of athletes. And we have turned it into such a necessity of freaking greed and only about the damn almighty dollar that we are willing to refuse any morals, any legitimacy on our part. And it's all about deception and what can or cannot be figured out that benefits the other people. Like, grow some balls and be man about this shit and stop hiding it. Stop worrying about what only benefits you and look at what can benefit everybody. That would make this hobby better.
It is also completely contrary to the entirety of human history and nature. The people look for an angle.
Come on, Carlos, you're smarter than this, man.
I have the entire of human history to back me on this side.
History. There are people out there that have morals. If I didn't have morals right now, I wouldn't sit here and give two shits about it. I literally run a group bulk submission for graded cards, and I'm sitting here telling everybody on camera right now that grading is becoming horseshit because of this, because the people out there that don't give a fuck are making it irrelevant.
So, Brandon, my counter to you, and Eric, you can go for right after this. My counter to you would be that the first PSA graded card was an obviously trimmed card that has been acknowledged by everybody. By your definition, it was horseshit from day one. It was never not. So what are we even talking about? And the only reason
that's a card that how many people are even going to ever be able to afford, trimmed or not trimmed?
You trim lower end cards too. And you have ultra lower end card. Before card care ever existed, there are people out there who have been taking wrinkles out of cards going back 30, 40 years. This isn't new.
Yeah.
Cards
well, you
is
are
in front of your face with
you are proving my point even more. You are proving my point even more. This hobby is it should be removed from the term hobby.
Okay.
It should be the fraud. The fraud
from day one,
the deception, the bullshit, the scamming, the greed. That's what the titles of it should be. Because what the hell is fun about knowing that there are so many people that could give two shits about morals or any of that just for sole purpose of financial gain? How is that a freaking hobby?
Go ahead, Eric.
I haven't said much. I'm sitting here listening because this is something Brandon's very passionate about, and I have been too. And we've discussed this topic and on Fridays and on Mondays and on our own, with each other and stuff. I agree with every single thing Brandon is saying. You see my head going up and down when, and like this, when going along with everything he's saying. The part that I think, Brandon, I want you to maybe be a little open-minded to is that everything Carlos is saying is correct also. And that's why you even said you're proving my point, because everything he's saying is true. And it all comes down to a couple of things. I've known you for a few years now, and you are a genuinely nice, caring, good-hearted person, with strong morals and character. And I'm in most days, I'm very happy to say that we're friends. Carlos, not so much.
Fair.
I think you want everyone to be as good of a person as you are. I wish they were too. And again, I agree with everything you're saying, but what Carlos is telling you is the world's a bad place. And when it comes
I agree.
And when it comes to morals get put aside as soon as, for a large portion. I'm not saying everybody. For a large portion of people, especially desperate people, and desperate is fluid depending on, how they feel about their situation. Morals get pushed aside when desperate people are dealing with money, and they can bend once, and then next time they bend a little more, and they bend a little more, and they bend a little more. Then there's people with no morals at all who are just after a quick buck. And we saw a lot of that during the pandemic and the boom, where people came in and literally said, I don't care about any of this. For as long as I can, I'm going to fill my pockets with money. And I don't care who I hurt or what I do to this quote hobby, I'm here to make a buck. And people did, and the smart ones got out when they saw that it was changing. So everything you're saying is right. The problem is there is too much greed. Not everyone is good. People suck. And when it comes to money, morals go out the window for a large portion of people. The only thing that can help us with this crisis in the hobby right now, as you've also said, and I agree with you, are the grading companies. Their job is to get the card in, be the third person, right? Third person grading. Their job is to sit there and say, yes, this is authentic. No, it is not damaged. This is the condition it's in. That's their job. That's their whole point, is to be a third party saying, this card's authentic. This card hasn't been screwed around with. And for the next person who's going to buy it, we're telling you that this is a good investment on your part, whether it's $5, $500, $5,000, or $5 million. They're not doing their job. Now, either they won't or they can't. I'm not there every day. I'm leaning more towards won't.
I'm going to go with yes.
Yeah, exactly.
The answer is a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. So I want to chime in real quick, and then I'll let you finish your point, Eric. So the only reason, like I said, I like playing devil's advocate a little bit, but at the same time, I also think it's more interesting if there's a little bit of a convergence of opinion. I think Brandon's passion is well-founded, and I appreciate it because I think the passion is important. That's why I say I don't have any issue with it, because honestly, I think it's good. I think it's good to have that contrast. I guess I look through the world not through the rose-colored glasses of what it could be, because the problem is, and maybe this is an issue with my hobby upbringing, so to speak, and maybe this could be a conversation for another day. It might be interesting to see. Basically, from day one, I was used to like dealers and things basically ripping me off as a little kid.
Sure.
Like that was day one.
Right.
So there was never a time in which I am not being, basically I have to be vigilant from the get. And Carlos Sr. is a very savvy guy who sees these things. So he was able to be like, hey, by the way, XYZ. And he's not even a card guy. He just sees it right there. He goes, pay closer attention to this, because this is not true, what he's saying right now.
Right.
That's something I wanted to bring up when Eric was talking about all this, because the events that are taking place are, I'm not going to argue, it's happened previous, but the topic is churning on, and we're seeing it and hearing about it openly, constantly today. We didn't hear it before, so it was kind of, and you've said this in the past.
Yes,
it's kind of forgotten. Like if it's not constantly in our face, it's okay, whatever. It's another day. We move on.
Yeah. And social media, by the way, also makes things more visible. So it has made it easier for us to see it, as opposed to the past where it might have been going on, some of the stuff in the exact same amount, but we didn't have Instagram, we didn't have YouTube, we didn't have Twitter, all these things to show you these things constantly.
I look at it back and I think back on our youth. And you mentioned, dealers would take advantage of you and everything else. I think the entire freaking hobby was taking advantage of us back then.
Correct.
Because it wasn't on social media. We didn't have eBay. We had our little corner, our LCS, and our friends at school, and our Beckett magazine that was pushing, these values to us and these constraints. I mean, look at the Beanie Babies and shit like that. Everybody thought they were going to be, millions of dollars and all this other stuff and all the other crap collectibles.
Hey, Eric's retirement is contingent upon that. They're coming back.
Well,
they're coming back, man.
I hope so.
My point is, this almost feels like the next wave. We had the boom. We had the surgence of people come in. And now we have, people have mentioned, are we in a junk slab? Because people don't want to accept junk wax because there's serial numbers on shit today. Are we in a junk slab era? Well, let's assume, or not assume, but let's say maybe possibly we are. there's what, 1.5+ million or something close a month now getting slapped.
Yeah, over.
Okay. Every month, let's say that rolls into further down the line, take us out of it, take us out of the picture, but further down the line, the impacts, and people are looking back in history like we have done, or maybe, the younger generation, somebody happens to get into a Patrick Mahomes or something, and he becomes Tom Brady of sorts, and some kid today down the road wants to buy a Patrick Mahomes, but he looks up and is like, oh, well, shit. Look at all this crap that happened. What if he then doesn't want it? We don't know the future impacts of what can happen. And I'm not just talking about what could potentially happen to the cards in terms of putting polish or whatever on them. Carrying this forward, the more, and set Kurtz aside, the more bullshit that we keep allowing and just saying it's okay, the worse things are going to be. And maybe most people don't give a shit about the future. Maybe most don't care about the next person in the hobby or what happens tomorrow. Maybe that is a big part of it. Maybe that's where I am differing, and some of my opinions don't resonate to people and they just think I'm ignorant and stupid. Maybe
I think so, Brandon, in fairness, I think there are going to be a number of people who are going to agree with you. So that's why I want to make sure we're fair about this. I think there are a number of people that are going to agree with you, but I think they're going to be the ones that are going to comment. But I'm looking at the 1,000 people who will not comment or say anything and then just continue to go about their business. There will be the folks who say, Brandon, you're 100% right. I'm totally with you, blah, blah, blah. Great. But then I'm looking at the 1,000 guys like, yep, absolutely. It sounds great. Okay, so I'm going to be trimming this now.
And you're not wrong. And I understand that. I think I just don't want to be one of those 1,000 people, whether I am doing or not doing the things that take place.
Sure.
I don't want to be one of those 1,000 people not saying anything. And maybe my voice doesn't change a damn thing within the hobby. Maybe I am just wasting 40 minutes of my time here speaking my mind. But at least I am speaking it out. At least I am sharing my passion. At least I am saying that I don't want shit to just be okay. I don't want to be one of the ones, if little Timmy grows up and looks back and it said, well, he was part of the damn problem. I don't want to be that guy. We cannot change shit unless we put our foot down and try to join together, because we forget that there's corporations above us. And I said it earlier, it sucks when you get kicked in the dick.
Yeah.
And that's what they're doing.
I feel like that should be on a shirt.
It should.
Eric will buy that
to
shirt.
Get merch. I can't remember exactly the way I put it earlier, but that's the way it feels sometimes.
It was kicking the nuts. It was basically kick the nuts.
Oh my God.
And again, there might be 1,000 people out there that think I'm whatever, and there will be some that understand.
But
I can't change shit.
I think everything you're saying is right on the money. It's truthful. It's just you want it to stop, and I think Carlos and I are more negative about the world in which we live.
I am a bastion of positivity. What are you talking about?
I don't think y'all are negative.
Not going to stop. It's going to get worse because money is involved. So as long as cards cost money, that I can buy this card for $5 and later I can sell it for 10. This is going to continue. It is not a hobby. It is a business. Okay.
There's one thing that Carlos and many other people, and I can't sit and name all of them, but there's one thing that people will speak and say, and they will use a term, and it is speak with your wallet.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And there's so many people that will say it, and there's so few that will actually do it. I completely understand where both of you are coming from. The world is a shit-ass place, whether it's inside this hobby or outside of it. But you hear so many people say that phrase, speak with your wallet. I have spoken with my wallet. Little do people know I haven't been grading cards, even though I am a bulk submitter and I love grading cards. I have tons of them, but I've stopped. I've stopped buying wax, even though me and my wife used to buy cases, plural, every year. In the last 2 years, I can tell you, I have opened one product, and that's it. And that was to try to have a little bit of fun. It's again goes back to it's easy to say. It's easy to say, well, this is okay. It's easy to say, speak with your wallet.
Yeah.
But people don't want to step up and try to change anything. They would rather just join the crowd of making shit easier instead of trying to do anything to make things better.
I agree with you, and that's why I won't buy from Probstein anymore. Right after he had Mastro on, and just was like, "You're a great guy, and I'm glad we're doing business together." I have not bought one thing from him since that interview. It was like 2 years ago now, and I used to buy stuff from him all the time because he had good hockey cards. The prices were fair, and I didn't have to pay Canada shipping, right? So I bought tons of stuff from that guy over the years. I never felt I was getting shilled. I never felt like I was getting screwed by Probstein. I had no problem doing business with the man. Until he did that interview with Mastro, I said, I want nothing to do with this guy. And I have not given him, I immediately stopped doing business with him, and I have not sent one penny his way in 2 years or whatever it's been since he did that interview. So that's what people have to do. Now, he's not missing my money. He's still the biggest name
Right.
on eBay. He's a freaking multi-millionaire. He doesn't care that I was buying, $5 to $25 cards from him, for a handful of years. But if enough people didn't like that interview, especially people that were buying $5,000 cards from him, maybe that would get his attention. But I just know that there's been tons of cards in the last 2 years that I have clicked on and went, oh my god, yes, buy it now. Oh crap, nope.
Is that why he changed his logo on eBay?
I have no idea.
It's all about the rebranding. It's all about the rebranding.
Yeah, the rebranding.
So I don't want to keep going on this, but
and people need to say, okay, I'm gonna use my wallet. If you don't, if person A doesn't like, we started this off, Kurt's Card Care, and you go to a business that is selling his products behind the counter or is sponsored by them somehow, and if it really upsets person A should say, I'm no longer doing business with these people anymore because I don't believe in that. I don't want anything to do with that. And if enough people do that, local card shop, for example, or that internet website or that internet show might go, wow, I've lost a lot of viewers, business, money ever since I got into bed with Kurt's Card Care.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not going to change because Kurt's Card Care and Mr. Minty and other businesses like them are making money for people, and it's making money for the grading companies because now I can clean my card up and send it in where before it wouldn't have been worth me to send it in. So they're getting more business because of this. So they don't want it to stop. They don't want to be the policeman because they're making money. And the people who are sending the cards in, getting the grades, coming back and selling them, they're making money. It's not going to stop because people suck. And when it comes to money, morals go out the window.
Now, one more thing I'll touch on here real quick, and then I'll touch on one other piece that Brandon brought up, and then we'll give final thoughts. So we'll wind down, and we could have this conversation for a long. This could be a Friday conversation. It would take the whole Friday without any issue. It would be very easy, especially with the chat involved. We definitely would have a lot of opinions. But let's touch on two things here. So first of all, what Eric was talking about is true. The whole vote for the wall. And what Brandon's talking about is true. Is like, people say it, but they don't do it, etc. So the way I would present this to you is the whole vote with your wallet thing. What it really is describing is a referendum. Through money, you are casting a vote with what you're doing. If you patronize it, you're casting a vote saying it's fine. If you're not patronizing, you're casting a vote saying it's not fine. And I think what you're finding is that the money is basically saying that the votes are coming in and they're still heavily skewed in one direction. The idea is like, well, if, for many years. So kind of to Brandon's point that we talked about earlier, it has never been more visible, the issues, the follies, the cracks in the hobby that have always been there, but it's never been more visible. If I can make it this visible to you and you're still saying with your money, game on, you've gotten the answer to your question. As collectors, it might not be the result you were looking for, but the votes are coming in and the votes are being tallied and they're saying, yes, game on, continue. Because the people are saying it. You don't like the box prices, but they're still being bought. Not enough of it is rotting. If a lot of it gathered dust and it was stuck, all of it, then it would change something for you. Go ahead.
Not to interrupt, but I didn't want to get too far past what you just said.
Go ahead.
You said the votes are coming in and they're clicking yes. And all of this pretty much ties down to basically the discussion and the debate is on right or wrong and cards being passed along, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do we think, and this is a whole, just a yes or no, simple, because this puts it into a whole different perspective here. Do we think that part of the reason it's being accepted is because there are less cards winding up in their forever homes and more of the prospecting, flipping, and that sort of nature, gambling, if that is why the votes are coming in more? Because when you mention the collector, a lot of this stuff that's happening with, I don't feel like those cards are winding up in their forever homes, as we'll call it.
Sure.
Do you think that's part of the votes?
Yes.
I think a lot of it, because when I said the reason I use votes specifically, so, and this is important, and this is not a political discussion, it's just a general, basic of poli-sci 101. Poli-sci 101. This is poli-sci 101. I don't care what you vote. I don't give a crap, believe me. But it's a basic poli-sci concept. When it comes to a vote, if a vote is a vote, then it can be on whatever issue you like. You're simply casting a vote. All we're doing is just tallying numbers. We're not asking you why. We're just saying like, yay or nay, XYZ, whatever. These are your options. Pick one. And then people are choosing. It can be a lot of what you're talking about. And you also made the point about the junk, slab era and all that. And I wanted to kind of circle around back to a different thing related to it, but also different, because that's a playoff of the old junk wax era, right? And a discussion point that we've always had with this piece is I always like to say, a lot of people always talked about the junk wax era and all that, and I always kind of laugh because I cut my collecting teeth in the midst, right in the teeth of the junk wax era, right in the middle of it. And what I found funny about it, the reason why I was amused by it, is I was sitting there like, the junk wax era doesn't mean anything, and they're like, well, but they made billions of cards. It's like, you're right. But right in the middle of the junk wax era, 1993, Topps Finest came out, and it was a super premium, and it violated all the rules. It was a super premium brand. It was very expensive, not collector friendly at the time. People bitched and moaned about the prices per pack. It went up immediately. But what happened? It was still in the middle of the junk wax era, but its production run relative to its contemporaries was much lower. As a result, a lot of the cards held more value. It's in the middle of the junk wax era. So how does that work? Well, the cream rises to the top. It doesn't matter how many 1991 Fleer cards you make. It makes no difference. We can drown in 91 Fleer. We can drown in 91 Topps. We can drown in 91 Donruss. They're still printing it to this very day. But that has no impact on 93 Finest Refractors. If you've got a 1993 Ken Griffey Finest Refractor, it still holds value because it's the 93 Finest Ken Griffey Refractor. People actually want it. And there is less of it to the point that the demand exceeds the supply. basic economics. We did not violate the rule of economics here. 1991 Fleer, people don't care about as much, and there's lots of it. So we use it as insulation or for a bonfire. Like, that's all it's good for. That's about all we can do with it. So there's a difference, but they're both in the junk wax era, AKA. So the junk slab era, to your point, I think the majority of the volume that's going in there is disposable shit that in the long run, most people won't give a crap about. But there's also stuff that are collector pieces that people want. It depends.
I'm not saying everything. Yeah.
But I'm just saying the stuff that actual people want, the stuff that people actually want, will still retain its value because they actually want it. And if it's of interest and there's a desire for it, one of my favorite things in the world, I'm watching one right now. I'm not going to bid on it, but it's a little too expensive. One of my favorite things to do with my red Bobbles is to buy PSA graded, like exquisite cards that are like in PSA 6 and PSA 7. Because, well, the garbage are PSA 6 and PSA 7. They're autograph cards for multiple players, Hall of Famers and all this, or nice memorabilia pieces.
As long as the auto's clean, yeah.
As long as the auto's clean, I still want it. Why? I don't need a fucking 10 because I don't want to pay for a 10. I would love to pay 6 or 7 because as a collector, that sounds great to me. So in that reality, it's like, no, please grade all that shit. Please.
And I think that's where, and honestly, you know, we've done this a while now. I don't even know how many episodes we've done now, but
too many.
Although we have varying opinions on topics sometimes, I think when it goes right back down to the nitty gritty, and one reason why I mentioned doing the podcast and I enjoy doing it with you guys is, aside that I get to make AI pictures of Eric and have fun, is we all in some way have our unique ways of going about, you know, and as many collectors do. We have our own ways about doing things. We have things that we are passionate about. And I think that works because whether we disagree or agree, we can appreciate each other's passions for what we have going on. And you mentioning buying a 6 or a 7 or an 8, hell, most of them cards back there are either raw or like 8s or 9s, you know, because I was buying them to put them on display, not because I needed the creme de la creme of, you know, top of the crop. And I think that's where a lot of this goes back to is, and maybe that's why maybe I shouldn't care. Maybe I shouldn't care what people are doing.
I've been making that Eric. I've been making that pitch for years.
Well, I think you know, in reality though, maybe I shouldn't because it's like
I do.
The only reason that I care though, and again, I know, you know, it's kind of like you said, not to bring, you know, this isn't political, but it's kind of like the same thing where sometimes you cast your vote for the presidency and you feel like your vote didn't matter. I know that my one opinion isn't going to change anything in the hobby. But I also know that if I don't cast my vote, which is what I'm doing, then I have nothing I can bitch about. And so I am casting my vote and I am speaking my voice and I am bitching about it because as a whole, we all need to better this hobby, or hell with junk slabs. I mean, what are we even going to, like, we're all getting older. Let's not lie to ourselves, you know, who knows how much longer we getting to have fun with this shit. But we already know that there's already question mark of what comes behind us, because it wasn't us as in, you know, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th grade trading with our friends and then carry that passion forward into our gray-haired, you know, bald-headed time frame today. I don't see that back then. And I can't change the kids' perspective of it because they got their Pokemons and all the other shit. But it would be nice to know that we aren't fucking up the potential for those kids. You know, what if they decide that they want to start collecting cards and we're sitting here being selfish because, well, it's okay. I mean, we just got to look at things, guys. I mean, I don't know. Again, I know I've ranted. I've ranted for a long time. People like when I get fired up. That's beside the point. Some people will agree. Some people will say I'm stupid.
I like when you kick people in the junk.
That's casting their votes too. But
as long as there's junk kicking, I think people appreciate that. Go ahead, Eric.
Yeah. Get kicked in the junk.
I just want to sum it up as this, and I don't have anything else to say on the topic after this, is look at cards and look at altered cards as the hot potato. Do you want to get stuck with the hot potato? That, this stuff's all going on. You're paying good money for something to put in your PC, and come to find out, or maybe you'll never know, but maybe you'll always question it. This thing was bent in half and run over by a car 5 times. And, they threw some Kurt's Card Care on there. They put it in the PSA. They got their money. The seller gets their money. Kurt gets their money. But whose money did they get? They got yours. And now, you're not getting your money back. This is going in your PC. You've been waiting for this card all your life. You're stuck with the hot potato. Now, it's hard. How do we know that? We don't. But just imagine that there was a way that you could find out that you were the last stop for this banged up piece of crap that got taped together with bubble gum and duct tape. And now it's in your collection. I don't want to be stuck with the hot potato. I don't want to be stuck with that car we were kind of talking about earlier with the Bondo and the fresh coat of paint and wax, but the thing's going to fall apart as soon as start shaking as soon as I hit, 60 on the highway. So people need to start thinking of it that way. Not about, that's someone else's problem. That's someone else's problem. Well, if you get stuck with the hot potato, it's your problem. And you should be upset about that. And that's all I have to say about that.
All I got out of that is that I need to send Eric a batch of potatoes.
With mayo. But no.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
People probably often wondered when I would show, I think I put them away now, but when I would show the cards that would have no borders on them or have pinholes in them or the Dr. J with the corners, trimmed off of it or whatever. People probably wondered, why are you buying that shit? Why are you buying that trash? And I would always say, well, it's affordable. I can afford this, or, it looked nice, but it was a good price on it. And I just wanted to add it into my collection. There was another element to that. If the card has no damn borders, I don't have to worry that it was doctored or smoothed over or soaked in the bath or massaged or whatever. I didn't have to worry about that.
Pressed.
I knew what I was buying. I wasn't getting the loaded hot potato. I was buying something I was happy with. I was buying something that I knew what I was getting. There was more to it than just the price. So
there you go. An in-depth discussion on a variety of topics. And now I'm left trying to figure out what I'm supposed to name this crap. For the title, I have no idea what the hell I'm supposed to call that.
Thank you, AMG. It was great while it lasted.
It was wonderful. We thank AMG Collectibles.ca and the AMG Collectibles YouTube channel. And in the great words of Eric, sorry. For everything.
Yeah.
For everything. We apologize for the words of Southern angry Santa Claus down there. Like, we're sorry. Like, I don't know what happened. He's out of Christmas.
I'm not sorry. I'm not
sorry.
Brad, Sherry, whoever else at AMG, y'all know I love Jason Robertson, and I like to get into your breaks and egg you on of pulling Jason Robertson from Cup Cases. I appreciate you guys. Brad is an awesome guy, even though Eric doesn't think so.
No, Brad's horrible.
But I am not sorry because I've never met Sherry. Brad is big into the grading scene.
Can we all agree that Eric's very sorry?
He has, Brad, I think, has a passion for all of this as well. And whether he agrees or disagrees with my take, it's my take. And it's, as Carlos
I don't think anybody over there is. I don't think anybody over there is worried about your take. I think it's just more fun it's more fun to apologize.
I'm not either, because I think Brad is of that. I mean, hell, I've talked shit about PSA and have been very vocal about PSA, and we get along fine. I think he understands some of my takes and frustrations there too.
I've talked bad about all the grading companies.
Yeah. But
except for KSA,
I do too.
Undying love of KSA.
Anyway, KSA. Oh, they're the best.
They're legit, yeah.
In all seriousness, though, I'm not afraid to share my emotion and thoughts on things because I do have a passion for it. And honestly, with the amount of money that we spend in this hobby to hopefully enjoy it, we should be allowed to voice our opinions, whether they're accepted or not. That shouldn't matter because it's our opinion. And tonight, thank you, Carlos. Thank you, Eric. I expressed my opinion. And for anyone listening or watching or whatever, if you don't agree with it, that is your opinion. But continuing to divide the hobby is only going to make it worse. Like Eric said, the world in general is becoming a shitty place. And a lot of it is because we are being divided and separated. And I'm not getting into politics and all that other shit. I'm just pointing out the facts. The more we divide things, the more issues arise. And I just think we need to sit back and take a look at that. And I'll leave it at that.
So for those final words of peace, on behalf of the spirit and the theme of Man of Peace, I'll leave it at that. So I want to thank Brandon, Bobbles, and Ball Cards and 540 Flips. You can send all your hate mail for Brandon to Sanders into Orr on Instagram. His DMs are open. He will personally filter through them. He will respond he will respond within 2 business days. So you have assurances that you will get responses to every single one of your.
You're going to be busy, Eric.
Inquiries and questions. Eric will personally take care of that and respond to you directly. Personalized. And if you send a self-addressed stamped envelope with possibly a ticking envelope, he will also respond in kind to those. He's just in general will be responsive. I think that's important.
I will be.
So I want to thank everybody who's checking it out. Again, thanks to AMG. We had our fun with it. It's just fun apologizing and not apologizing at the same time. I think we have a lot of fun. But they've been extremely supportive. We do want to thank them for supporting a lot of these things. And also, obviously, there was a lot of discussion there. So if you do want to comment in the comment section, feel free. Again, though, send your hate to Sanders into Orr on Instagram. Send it there as well. Just fine. General hate. That's the place. We already have it set in. It's in the description. You can check it out. It's right there.
He appreciates AI generated photos.
That as well. Without a doubt, without question. All right. So that's it. So this was been an epic episode. I have no idea what we're going to name it. You'll know because you will have seen it by the time you clicked on it. And I'll figure out what I'm going to put in the thumbnail. This will be interesting. Maybe an AI photo. Who knows? But anyway, so for Eric and Brandon and myself, we thank you for checking this one out. This has been episode 70 of the BIC podcast, and we'll catch you in the next one.